Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If that film that we just witnessed did not cause your blood to start to boil, if you did not start to get very mad, you'd better check your pulse, because you might not be alive. President Rajavi, it is always an honor to be with you and to be with such a distinguished group of colleagues today and have a chance to be here in Paris and address this very august group that is gathered here today. I would tell you that I think we all in this room are worried about a number of things. We're worried about, in your case, the citizens in your native country, in many cases your fellow countrymen, in terms of their safety, their security, and their future. And yet at the same time, I think that we all in this room today are excited about the possibility for change. And that's the subject that I want to address today, is change, because it's obvious we need change in a number of areas. We need change in the current Iranian regime. We need change in terms of the conditions at Camp Ashraf. And we need change in terms of the actions that are being taken by the United Nations as well as my own country, the United States. You know, as a result of the things that we've seen unfold recently in a number of countries, particularly Egypt and Libya, I think there's great excitement concerning the potential for change in a number of countries around the world. And that potential is always there when other people that are living there are oppressed, where dissidents are jailed or killed, where democratic methods or techniques are unheard of, and where torture, killing, and imprisonment is commonplace. In this regard, as I look at the current Iranian regime, I see all of that ongoing at the current time. And in addition, another important factor, and that is the current status of women within that regime. Iran's ruling regime is the largest exporter of terrorism in the world today. In the last 25 years, everything that the United States has been involved in around the globe, we have encountered Iranian presence from the current regime. And they're not there to fight for freedom. They're there to ensure that they can try to impose their will in the regime at the location where we have fought. From my perspective, the Iranian people could not be worse off today than they are with the current regime. And I'm sure that that same feeling is felt by many other countries in the Middle East, because inside of each of their countries there is usually a radical or fundamentalist element from the current regime in Iran just waiting to carry out the instructions that were issued from Tehran. The ruling regime is an oppressive regime. It mixes theocracy with autocracy and combines that with an extremist and expansionist ideology. And it is one that continues to defy the international community. I believe that most Iranian people today, as well as both internal as well as their supporters outside of Iran, feel that way. In fact, I think everyone does except for one major group, and those are the people that are benefiting from the current Iranian regime. Those are the ones, unfortunately, that have the guns. They're the special Republican Guards, the Republican Guards, the ones that allow the current regime to stay in power. In Iran today, compounding the issue is the fact that in the United States we have the MEK on the foreign terrorist organization list. That weakens the MEK's ability to lead this resistance movement to try to change the regime. The MEK should be removed from the FTO list today. The United Kingdom removed them from the list in 2008. The European Union followed in 2009. So I asked the United States, what are we waiting for? We need to do it today, not tomorrow. One of my colleagues here today, Ambassador Dale Daly, who served as the counterterrorism expert in the State Department, knows more about terrorism probably than anyone assigned to the State Department today. He recommended it years ago, and it still hasn't happened. We also have our own Congress in the United States that passed a resolution saying that the MEK should be removed from the list, and also challenging the State Department to produce evidence. The State Department could not produce any evidence, either public or in classified information, to show that the MEK deserved to be on the FTO list. And so I would say to Secretary Clinton, who, by the way, I think is a great Secretary of State, what are we waiting for? Let's get them off the list, and let's do it now. You know, the MEK provides hope for the Iranian people, hope that far exceeds anything that the United States can do or anything the international community can do for the people of Iran, short of direct intervention. The 10-point MEK Human Rights Platform, published by President Rajavi, emphasizes the same religious and gender freedoms that is advocated by the United States Department of State. If we look back in history, we see that the MEK was placed on the list because the MEK was the enemy of the current Iranian regime back in 1991. And we in the United States put the MEK on the list out of hope that it would maybe normalize relations between the United States and Iran and the current Iranian regime. It didn't work then, and it is not working today. So let's get away from it. It's time to correct that mistake for the Iranian people. The current Iranian regime is a terrorist-oriented, anti-Western world, anti-democratic regime, and it is noted for that throughout the region in the Middle East. Iran has a much stronger concentration of nationalism, as I said, than any other country in the region. The current Iranian regime knows that. And they know that the MEK provides the best avenue for change, and it's why they consider the MEK to be a significant threat to them. Last week, I was outraged and embarrassed to watch the United States forces stood by as the Iraqis invaded Camp Ashraf. And we just witnessed in the film that we saw them killing and injuring unarmed Iranian civilians who are living there. Now, these are just not normal individuals. These are individuals who were promised protection by the United States. It is an organization that first alerted all of us to the mullah's nuclear programs. Had it not been for that revelation, the current Iranian regime just might have a nuclear capability today. But as we witnessed last week, we failed to act when we had a legitimate and a lawful authority to do so. Under our jurisdiction, we can and we should protect the people and the residents of Camp Ashraf. I call on Secretary Clinton and fellow Secretary Gates to acknowledge the commitment that we made to the residents of Camp Ashraf, to acknowledge the promise that we made with the residents of Camp Ashraf, and to honor the contract that we made to protect the residents of Camp Ashraf and quit hiding behind the lame excuse that the area now belongs to the Iraqis. That is not a reason to stand by and watch innocent civilians being killed. I believe that we, the United States, are a great nation, but we will not be in the eyes of the rest of the world if our word is not our bond. If we do not honor the commitments that we have made to others and the promises, this is a disgrace for America. If President Maliki is so weak that he cannot control his own armed forces, if he is so weak that he cannot, in essence, prevent his forces from attacking the United States or attacking the innocent civilians at Camp Ashraf, and that Maliki is nothing more, his regime is nothing more than a puppet for the current Iranian regime. We need to honor the commitment that we made to those residents at Camp Ashraf. As I sat here today and looked at this photo of those great residents that died, that President Rajavi hung, I was reminded of Kosovo and how the Serbs had attacked the innocent civilians in Kosovo. We, the United States, we, the international community, did not stand by then and watch that happen. We intervened and stopped it. We need to do the same thing today for the residents at Camp Ashraf. If Maliki is going to govern like a thug, then he needs some of the same medicine that they got. I enjoin President Obama, Secretaries Clinton and Gates to take up arms. Every day, every hour that the MEK remains on the FTO list means that more lives can potentially be lost. We must end the attacks and the inhumane treatment of the residents at Camp Ashraf. We must stop the blockade, especially the medical blockade. We must get the loudspeakers removed and stop this heinous psychological torture of the Ashraf residents. These are clear cases of crimes against humanity, and our silence and inaction gives tacit approval to the Maliki government. I have asked the current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to make sure that this issue is addressed at the highest levels of the United States government. Today, it is clear to me, and I think to all of us in this gathering today, that the current Iranian regime needs to change. And the MEK, with their platform of religious and human rights, is who they fear. We should join the UK and our European allies and remove the MEK from the FTO list, thereby allowing them to bring maximum pressure on the current regime. This, combined with the strength and courage of those individuals in Iran who want their freedom, especially the Iranian women and youth, offer the best solution, in my opinion, to seeing an Iran with a government that is sensitive to the needs of the people and one that provides the opportunity for all its citizens to enjoy the basic religious and human rights that the rest of the free world enjoys.